Well, I'm standing in the best place to watch fireworks in Hampton Roads as we talk about the pros and cons of living in Portsmouth, Virginia, and we're starting right now. Hey, my name is Sam Sansalone and I'm a real estate agent in Hampton Roads, Virginia. And if it's your first time here, please don't subscribe. I want to earn every subscription. So if you subscribe, it means you've watched more than once and you like my content. So if it's your first time, just enjoy the experience. And then maybe subscribe the next time. Today we're talking about the pros and cons of living in Portsmouth, Virginia. Now I've done Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, and Norfolk, the pros and cons of all three of those. Now like always, I'll do the cons, and I'll do the pros, and I'll sprinkle a couple restaurants that I recommend that you try in Portsmouth. Now to get a context of where Portsmouth is, it's just west of Norfolk, and I'll put it up on the map. The Elizabeth River runs between Norfolk and Portsmouth, and it's connected by multiple tunnels, the Midtown Tunnel and the Downtown Tunnel. So I also want to tell you the different pieces of Portsmouth. You've got the central area of Portsmouth and east, which is the closest section to Norfolk. Then you also have the northwestern side. The feel of one side is totally different than the other side. So when you hear about Portsmouth, some people will think that you're talking about one side and you mean the other, and vice versa. When you ask for advice with other people about what they think about Portsmouth, make sure you're talking about the same one. So if you drive through places where you're not too happy, you might find a spot, if you drive past there, you're like, wow, this is awesome. Where did this come from? Now, as a real estate agent, I legally can't tell you specifically where good and bad neighborhoods are, but what I can do is tell you the facts of a city so you can make some decisions for yourself as to what you think is good for you. So one of the cons is that most of the schools in the area are low ranked. If you go to niche.com, all the public schools in Portsmouth are in the lower third of Hampton Roads. Number 2 is crime. Portsmouth is also known for having high crime in some areas. Now I'm going to drop some links below for crime maps so you can get an idea of exactly what I'm talking about. Now con number 3, the tolls. So we started getting tolls a few years ago on the Midtown Tunnel and the Downtown Tunnel and the Jordan Bridge, which connects the Chesapeake area and Portsmouth area. Because we haven't had tolls before, the tolls seem real high, and they actually are pretty high in a lot of cases. In rush hour times, you're paying $2.20 for the Downtown Tunnel each way. So doing the math, if you live in Portsmouth and you work somewhere else that requires you to drive through a tunnel, and you go 2 times a day, 5 days a week, you're gonna spend $1,144 a year just on tolls. So that has obviously caused some collateral damage in the city's economic system, and the real estate has also been influenced. If you live in Portsmouth and have to drive somewhere else that requires the tunnel, factor that tunnel fee into your budget. Now number 4, Portsmouth has really weirdly high real estate taxes. Now I'm gonna put up on the screen all of the cities in Hampton Roads and their tax rate per $100 of assessed value. So what you can see here is the lowest tax rate in these 7 cities is Virginia Beach, oddly enough. That's 99 cents per $100. That means that for every $100 of value that the city deems your house to be worth, you're paying 99 cents a year for those $100. So if you've got a house that is assessed for $200,000, you're paying $1,980 a year or $165 a month. But on the other hand, Portsmouth, their taxes are $1.30 for every $100 of assessed value, over 31% greater than Virginia Beach. So what does that mean for a $200,000 house? It means you're paying $2,600 a year in real estate taxes instead of Virginia Beach's $1,980 for the same assessed value, which means you're paying $620 a year more than what you'd be paying in Virginia Beach, which adds up. That's over $50 per month more in real estate taxes you're paying in Portsmouth than in Virginia Beach. And con number 5, honestly, it's the perception. There's a general public perception that Portsmouth is unsafe, not a fun city to go to, run down. So when you say, I live in Portsmouth, some people will respond like, what? You live in Portsmouth? It can be seen kind of as a negative. I love Portsmouth, but that's the public perception. So when you're doing your research, just know that going into it. There's not a whole lot to do in Portsmouth. Outside one of the pros I'll mention soon, there's not a whole lot of family nightlife. There's no sports team, that kind of thing. So if you're doing anything in the evenings, you're usually gonna find yourself driving at least to downtown Norfolk. The traffic in the tunnels is really, really annoying. You might get between Portsmouth and Norfolk and it takes you 5-7 minutes. Or it could take you 25 minutes because the line getting into the tunnel takes so long to merge into. It can be frustrating. So Anytime between like 3:30, 4 o'clock till 5:30 or 6, those congested areas in close to the tunnel where the merging is can make it real complicated. Now for pros, I will say after all the stuff I just said about Portsmouth, you might have wondered if I was going to give you any pros at all. I love Portsmouth, and I'm going to tell you why in all these pros. Pro number 1, Olde Towne. Olde Towne is amazing. If you know Ghent in Norfolk, Olde Towne Portsmouth is like the smaller cousin to Ghent. It's not as big, there's not as much in there, but it has a lot of history, a lot of similarly designed architecture and houses. It's one of the few cities that have a lot of period homes still intact in the town. And so you can go up and down the streets that were in the mid 1700s. The names haven't changed since then, which is actually very rare. There's a walking tour in Olde Towne Portsmouth that takes you through over 60 of the old houses. And as you walk down the streets and see the houses, the walking tour online will give you a description of the houses that you're looking at. There are some of the best restaurants in the area are in Portsmouth. There's a street called High Street that runs right in the middle of Olde Towne. That's where most of the restaurants and the activity is. There's places like the Lobscouser, Roger Brown's, which is one of my favorites because I'm a sports fan and they have really big TVs in there. So for football games, it's a great place to go and get early seats so you can have a front row seat. And lastly, the Commodore Theater is a restored mid-40s Art Deco style theater. They've got a dining section, definitely worth a stop, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places and on the Virginia Landmarks Register. And the first recommendation I'm going to tell you about in Portsmouth is the restaurant called Still. Still is very high class, high society. Still is amazing. It's actually located in kind of like a basement area of one of the buildings in Olde Towne, right off of High Street. When I went the first time, it blew me away. Blew me away. It's like a speakeasy feel to it. They have a virtual tour online that I can show you too. It's real fun. The food is exquisite. You won't find anything like that in most of the rest of Hampton Roads. But I'll tell you my favorite Olde Towne restaurant later on in the video. So High Street connects to the very edge of the water. So you can go through Olde Towne to the end of High Street. You can see the waterfront. The waterfront branches out and you can see downtown Norfolk. It's real pretty. On the waterfront, there are a lot of piers, and on one of those piers is a restaurant called Fish and Slips. The view is amazing. If you walk into the restaurant, you can sit up on their deck and enjoy the view of downtown Norfolk as you have lunch or dinner. This is basically on a dock. You can't, there aren't many places that have that kind of access to the water. And behind me is the Elizabeth River Ferry, which takes you for a couple of bucks across from Portsmouth over to the Norfolk Harbor. You keep walking through Olde Towne, you'll see the Lighthouse Portsmouth, which is a ship that is turned into a museum. It's a very historic part of town because, again, the town was built and formed in the mid 1700s. So there's a lot of history in Portsmouth, a lot of history in that harbor area. So the houses are very special. You feel like you're really stepping back in time. And in that Olde Towne area, just next to it, is the oldest functioning Navy hospital, the Naval Medical Center of Portsmouth. That's right up next to Olde Towne. And so a lot of people that come to Portsmouth often work in that building. And I'd say if you do have kids and you're going to Portsmouth or you live in Portsmouth, I think one of your best friends is going to be the Children's Museum. It has one of the best children's museums, I don't know, probably in the East Coast. It's so cool. Check online the reviews. Yeah, I remember going when I was a kid. That was 30 plus years ago, and I remember being enamored with the whole thing too. Anytime you can find a place to take your kids that they love is awesome, right? If you go to the north side of Olde Towne, you'll see a spot where I like to watch fireworks because most of the fireworks that go on display are in that Norfolk Harbor. But people that go see fireworks often go on the Norfolk side because it's easier. If you go to the Portsmouth side, I'm giving my secrets away. Don't go, don't do this. But if you park on the Portsmouth side, go over there. There's a big grassy area on the water on that side. Sit on that side. The traffic is like an eighth of what it is in downtown Norfolk. Oh my gosh, the whole experience is so different, and you can leave and not have to wait 45 minutes in traffic. So now I've given the secret away. Now I've got to watch fireworks somewhere else. Awesome. Pro number 2 is the city, to be honest, is very centrally located. I'd say you're about 10 or 15 minutes from Norfolk. It seems like you're closer, but traffic is sometimes bad. I'll show you the map on the Olde Towne Portsmouth website just to give you a general idea. It's within a very similar proximity of most of the major cities in Hampton Roads. Whether that's Chesapeake, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Hampton, Newport News, Suffolk, you're pretty much within equal distance of all those places, at least within a reasonable distance to get to where you want to go. Number 3, the real estate prices are pretty affordable. Portsmouth's real estate values are a little bit lower than the rest of the area. If you like water access, if you like just an affordable house, you'll find that buying the same house in Portsmouth is a little bit more affordable than going into Virginia Beach, into Norfolk, into Suffolk, and all those areas. And the further west you go, the more land there is. You get large brick ranches the further west you go to. While the real estate prices were already a little bit suppressed, they have been influenced even more by the tolls in the recent years. So if you're okay commuting from Portsmouth to other parts of town, you can get a house for a lower sales price in the process. Now I waited till the very last thing to tell you about my favorite restaurant. I wanted all the momentum to get built up for this one moment. Beer garden. The beer garden. Just go to the beer garden, for goodness sakes. If you like German food, if you hate German food, I don't care, just go. It doesn't matter. It's the best German food I've ever had. It's got hundreds of beers available for you. The beer list is like a novel. It's huge. Funny story, my friend Jonathan and I, this is like 10 years ago, we went to the beer garden several times and we got this beer called St. Martin's. We got it and we thought, oh my gosh, this is the best beer we've had in our lives. It was a dark brown. I like dark beers. It had a real smooth finish. It was amazing. I like beer. So anyways, so we kept going back and asking for St. Martin's. Every time after that, the waiter or waitress said, we don't have St. Martin's. So we went back literally for years, kept asking for St. Martin's, and ever since that first time, they said they didn't carry it. And so we looked online, couldn't find this beer. And it was like literally the best beer we had both ever had in our lives. Can't find it anywhere. Well, about a year ago, I stumbled on something called St. Bernardus. I try it. It tastes just like St. Martin's. So what does that mean? We misheard the waiter the very first time we ordered it. It was actually St. Bernardus, but we thought it was St. Martin's. We've been saying the wrong beer for 10 years, so now we kind of feel like we got our beer back. If you want to be in a more affordable price range for real estate, weigh the pros and cons to decide if Portsmouth is the right spot for you. So far I've already done Virginia Beach, Chesapeake. Now so far I've already done living.